O'clock. I'm Zach Merchant. Here's what we are following right now, developing stories across the country. Standing by for a press briefing from the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, getting ready at any moment to take the podium inside the White House as the United States' ongoing military campaign against Iran continues. When that briefing begins, we will take you there live. But right now here in Georgia, it is Election Day, a special election day, and a special election to replace, or rather fill, the now vacant seat of former Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene in the 14th Congressional District. The now former Congresswoman resigned her seat with a year left in the term, and now the race is on to fill it. Our Doug Richards is covering the story today. Doug, a big election and likely just the first in a long string of elections for voters in the 14th District.
You know, the voters in the 14th District basically can look forward to an entire year of election drama here in 2026. And I suppose that's really kind of the case for a lot of us, given that we're, looking at primaries and runoffs and November elections obviously coming up for some significant offices statewide that have already drawn lots of attention and raised lots of money. But this particular election has the added attraction, if you want to use that word, of having the special election that's taking place. The votes will be counted tonight for the first time, and then there are 22 names on the ballot. 5 people have withdrawn officially, and so there's still 17 people whose votes will be counted. The 5 people who withdrew, by the way, Zach, actually still appear on the ballot. Voters, when they walked into precincts today, saw a notification that said these 5 people have withdrawn. Therefore, if you vote for them, their votes will not be counted. So, nothing complicated about that. On the other hand, the 5 people who withdrew were not exactly household names to begin with. Truth be told, the household names are kind of few and far between in this race, unless you're a political junkie like, say, Zach Merchant, or to a lesser extent myself. Perhaps we should talk about some of the folks who are the front runners.
Well, Doug, I would never, ever presume to be on your level when it comes to covering Georgia politics, but I'll take the compliment. It is, as you point out, a very crowded field. Who are the candidates that you're going to be watching for as these returns come in? And do you expect any one of them to be able to clear that 50% hurdle to avoid a runoff?
Well, let's talk about the big names, such as they are. The district attorney in northwest Georgia, he's a Dade County resident. Clay Fuller is the candidate who was endorsed by President Trump. And so that gives him, actually I haven't heard people talk about the Trump bump, but there may be one of those for him in this special election. Then there is Sean Harris, who is a Democrat, who ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene 2 years ago. And so he had some name recognition in the few liberal circles in Georgia 14. It's surprising, you'd be surprised at how many Democrats there actually are in Floyd County, but and to some extent, of course, in Cobb County, the portion of Cobb County that's in Georgia 14. But those other counties are not places you find a lot of Democrats, and so, the Democrat who has identified in this race, Sean Harris, has a chance, maybe the best chance, to lead the field of 17 candidates whose votes will be counted tonight. And then let's talk about one more character, whose name is Colton Moore. He's a state senator. He's also from Dade County, and he gained a bit of a reputation when he was in the legislature for a number of things, some of which drew the ire of the Republican establishment in the legislature. And like, for example, he blasted the late House Speaker David Ralston when there was a period of time when Ralston was getting criticized for using his law office to, or using his office as Speaker, excuse me, to sort of help advance or to stall his legal cases in his private law practice. Legitimate criticism of Walter Ralston. Colton Moore had a way of sort of using a lot of fire and brimstone and talking about it, and that didn't sit well with folks in the legislature, but it caught voters' attention, and I think Moore is probably, as a result, in the top three. It's also worth noting, Zach, that two of those three candidates are from Dade County. Dade County is the most northwesternmost county in the state. Its northern border touches Tennessee. Its western border touches Alabama. It was at times called the Kingdom of Dade because it had some sort of breakaway, we don't want to be in Georgia anymore, history from back in the 1800s. And so it's fitting, certainly, that a guy like Colton Moore is from there, and then perhaps the other candidate who's from there, Clayton Fuller, likewise will give a little more heft, perhaps, to Dade County, which many of us otherwise overlook.
Doug Richards, as always, we appreciate it. A big field of candidates. We're going to be watching those results as they come in tonight. A few other candidates to watch for potentially: Jim Tully, Tom Gray, and others on the Republican side. And then remember, if you're a voter in Northwest Georgia, again, May 19th is the general primary, and you're going to be casting ballots again in that May primary. It's an enormous district. You see the graphic up on your screen right now. The 14th Congressional District covers parts of Cobb County, Catoosa, Chattooga, Dade, as Doug Richards pointed out, once upon a time known as the Kingdom of Dade. We can always rely on Doug for a little bit of history. Floyd County, Murray County, Paulding, Polk, Walker, and Whitfield, a geographically very large district in our most northern, westernmost chunk of our state, a race that has people in Georgia paying attention and also national political watchers paying a close eye to see how this race will break and what impact President Donald Trump's endorsement of Clay Fuller will have. We're going to watch that race as the day goes on and into the night. Right now, though, we've got a beautiful day. Look at this. Every time the graphic rolls, Danielle Moss joining us here, meteorologist, I always want to say it's a beautiful day, and I have been wrong on occasion because we don't have a lot of windows in the streaming center here, but I am proven right. What a gorgeous afternoon. At least right now, Danielle.
Yes. Today is going to be one of those days where it's going to continue to be gorgeous.
Excellent.
Zach. I know. We'll have a few spotty showers, but not everyone's going to be seeing rain. So you are more likely to enjoy the beautiful, wonderful, warm afternoon than
this
you are
is good.
to see some spotty
Unlike
showers.
last night, too, because you warned us. You said we were going to get a little storm rolling our way, and boy, did we.
We did. We saw some really heavy rain. We saw some thunder. We saw some lightning, some hail in some places. So it was a nasty night, but the good news is things are starting to clear out, and now we have some lingering cloud cover, but overall it's not going to be too bad. Here's a look at our satellite and radar outside right now. We have some clouds that are still hanging around all across the southeast right now. Some rain showers that are moving back towards the west. In fact, we have a few rain showers that are in Arkansas right now. No severe weather, which is great news. However, some people are under a very large severe weather threat. What's happening is we have this warming trend. Our temperatures are very warm, well above average, and we are seeing that impact these spring-like storms that continue to develop. We're going to see some more of this activity really start to happen over the next few days. In fact, today is going to be mostly dry. We'll have some clouds still lingering. They'll start to move out of here by this afternoon. But then as we head into your Wednesday's going to be a very interesting day, Zach. That's going to be one of those days where you're looking at, like what you said, it's going to be nice, it's going to be sunny, and then all of a sudden we have some weather that comes through on Wednesday night. We'll have some strong storms that will be approaching, and it's going to bring us some heavy rain, maybe even some high winds. As of right now, we are in a level 1 threat for some stronger storms, but we're not looking at anything that like what we saw last night. Last night's system was more of a convective system compared to a cold front. So when we have a front that comes through, you see those temperatures drop. You're going to see, your typical line of storms that pass through. Last night was just one singular storm system that brought those high winds and that heavy rain as well. So Then we're always going to continue to monitor. As of right now, what I'm seeing is that it's not going to be as bad. We don't have a weather impacts alert for it right now. Yes, it's going to be heavy rain. Yes, there'll be a few thunderstorms. But as far as the severe weather threat is concerned, I'm thinking that's going to be staying off to the west as of right now.
I know that is going to be welcome news to a lot of folks, myself certainly included. And Danielle, this is kind of spring weather in Georgia, right?
Yes.
This is the sort of pattern that we typically get.
Exactly. We usually have these springtime afternoon showers. And when we see our temperatures start to rise into the 80s, that's when it really starts to happen. We have those isolated pop-up showers and thunderstorms. And, we are expecting things to be kind of comfortable today, but then we have these big weather changes. I'm talking about 82 degrees on Wednesday, and then by the time we get into Thursday, we are going to be having our temperatures into the 60s. So it's definitely going to be a day where we are going to be seeing some really big weather changes, and it will linger into your Friday as well. In fact, Friday, when you wake up, it's going to be into the 40s, but Zach, when you factor in the winds, it's going to feel more like the 30s. So,
like the 30s?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I heard somebody describe this kind of weather as wrong coat weather.
Yes.
No matter what
That's
jacket,
perfect.
no matter what coat you decide to wear when you walk out the front door in the morning, odds are by the end of the day you will have had a moment where you thought, I had the wrong coat today.
Yeah, that is perfect. I've never heard of that before, but that's perfect.
There you go.
Because you might have a light one, then you might need a heavier one by the
Maybe
time
need a
you-
rain jacket.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you need an umbrella. Who's to say?
My back seat is filled with items to wear.
That's the
Coats.
old thing. If you bring an umbrella, it sometimes feels like if you have it, you don't need it.
Exactly.
That's why you always got to keep it in the trunk.
Exactly. Be prepared.
Be prepared. I took us off on a coat and apparel tangent here. Is there anything we missed in the forecast here? I cut you off.
That is it. We'll get into the weeds of what's happening Thursday and Friday when I see you back at 3.
Perfect. Well, we're looking forward. Get your closet ready. Get your coats ready. Danielle, as always, we appreciate it. We will be right back in 120 seconds. And right now we continue to monitor developments inside of the White House press briefing room. You see there correspondents standing by for Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to begin her daily briefing. When that begins, we will take you there live as we expect more details and certainly questions about the ongoing military campaign conducted by the United States and Israel against Iran. Again, when that begins, we're going to take you live inside the White House. As we await the beginning of that briefing, we turn back closer to home now. Our Joe Ripley joining us in the 11Alive Plus Streaming Center. Joe, with a look at a reasonably new show right now at the Fox.
Yes. Can you feel it, Zach?
I can feel it. I feel I am in the presence of somebody who knows about this stuff, because this is you're a theater guy.
I am.
You're a talented theater guy.
Is that fair to say that? Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that.
Done a couple shows here.
He's a great singer, too.
Thank you. You praise me too much.
We'll brag on you. I've heard it. It's good.
The magic is in the air, though. We've got Harry Potter and the Cursed Child playing right now, as we speak, at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. And as we know, every time the Fox brings these Broadway caliber shows here on the national tour to Atlanta, there always seems to be at least one connection to the metro area, and we found them. We found two stars in this show, this production that is spellbinding, captivating, and they are from Woodstock and Stone Mountain out east. So we got East Side, West Side covered. Naya, Vanessa McCullough, and Adam Grant Morrison are their names. Once upon a time, they were sitting in the Fox Theater seats applauding the actors on stage. Now they're getting all the attention and applause. So meet Naya and Adam. Naya Vanessa McCullough followed her brother on stage, fell into acting, and fell in love with theater.
I was quite shy when I was a kid, and my parents wanted me to get out of my shell and get out of my bubble.
Growing out of her shell and into her own, she acted with Onstage Atlanta and starred in shows at the Paideia School. Then McCullough got whisked away into the wizarding world.
Physically, it is a very intensive show, so it feels like every night you're expending energy.
As Rose Granger Weasley, she's part of the flurry of spellbinding magical performances in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child playing at the Fox Theater, where McCullough's collected quite a few playbills from shows over the years.
The show is a magic show in the obvious way, but it's also a magic show in that it's a story about love and acceptance and growing up, being a young person and trying to find your place, and I think there is magic in that.
Adam Grant Morrison plays the main character, Albus Severus Potter.
It's about, friendship and family and love and care and finding your place in a world, even when it feels kind of hard to be doing that.
The Woodstock native cut his chops at Creekview High School before acting on the same stage where he saw his first professional show.
I actually grew up and I was a huge fan of Harry Potter. My mom, the night before kindergarten, she decided we are done with little kid books. It is time for big kid books. And so our first big kid book was Harry Potter.
Now, Morrison sharing the magic in his hometown and sharing the stage with a fellow ATLian.
I am feeling like I'm in a very unique and special position to give back to a community that gave so much to me and is the reason that I'm here and did shape the actor that I am today.
So, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child playing through this Sunday, March 15th at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. Very exciting for those two. Got very emotional their first night. And have been so throughout this entire run, getting their friends and family to come out and support them.
We always say there's always a connection to Atlanta. And, Joe, you're always so good at finding those connections. And what a round trip, full circle life journey for these two young performers at the Fox.
And to have such a connection, especially for Adam with this show, his mom being an Anglophile, she read him Harry Potter as a child. It was their first, really book they remember that was bigger than the board books. You graduate to the chapter books, and Harry Potter was that family bonding time he got to spend with his mom and the rest of his family. His sister, actually, his twin sister, is still acting. She's the one who forced him to do a show in middle school. He stuck with it. Now he's at the Fox and touring all over the country. And then you also have a sister in New York who's acting. So it runs in the family.
Fantastic. Joe, so grateful for these stories that you share with us and with everybody here on 11Alive Plus. Thank you. We're going to go now to this. We're taking you inside of the White House, where White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is just stepping up to the podium, delivering remarks. Let's listen in.
This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted.
So we are monitoring this feed right now, juggling just a touch of technical challenges, trying to get the audio up, and we took you there a moment ago. Obviously, you saw the picture of Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. That was not her voice. As soon as we get the audio up on this feed, we're going to take you there now, awaiting these remarks that we expect, and certainly the questions from correspondents and journalists in the room, we can be sure will focus on the United States' ongoing military campaign against Iran, now into its second week of action. We're going to take you back inside now. Let's listen in.
Elements of this terrorist regime in his statement yesterday. If they do anything to stop the flow of oil or goods within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the world's most powerful military 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Moving forward, the stated objectives for Operation Epic Fury remain the same. Destroy the terrorist regime's ballistic missiles, raise their Iranian missile industry to the ground, ensure their terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region, and ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. President Trump remains confident these goals will be accomplished in swift fashion. As for the oil, President Trump fully expected the rogue Iranian regime to try and disrupt the global markets. That's why President Trump and his energy team have been planning for this long before the strike and have moved quickly to address these temporary disruptions. Thus far, the Trump administration has offered political risk insurance to tankers operating in the Gulf. The Treasury temporarily waived certain oil-related sanctions, and the Commander-in-Chief has offered the U.S. Navy to escort tankers when necessary. The President and his energy team are closely watching the markets, speaking with industry leaders, and the U.S. military is drawing up additional options following the President's directive to continue keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. I will not broadcast what those options look like, but just know the President is not afraid to use them. Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term. Once the national security objectives of Operation Epic Fury are fully achieved, Americans will see oil and gas prices drop rapidly, potentially even lower than they were prior to the start of the operation. And we will live in a world where Iran can no longer threaten the United States or our allies with a nuclear bomb. On another matter here at home, President Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and it is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice. But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change a child's sex. You cannot. Passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that Republicans and, frankly, Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature. So with that, today, I will take your questions. Benny, thank you for being here, and why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So my first question is actually about the Save America Act. So one of the biggest things that the Democrats are saying, the claims that they're making, is that the Save America Act, it would prevent married women from voting in elections or make it harder for them. What do you have to say to those claims? Is there any validity to them, and where do you think they're getting this from?
There is zero validity to these claims, and I'm glad that you brought them up, because you have the Democrats who have created this myth, and it has been perpetuated, unfortunately, by many in the mainstream media. Let me be very clear. The Save America Act does not prohibit anyone from voting with the exception of illegal aliens. And the greatest way to disenfranchise American citizens from voting in American elections is to allow illegal aliens to vote, which is what Democrats want to do. We see it taking place in Democrat jurisdictions at the state and local level across this country. So the Save America Act corrects that. And as far as married women who have changed their name, if they're already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected by the SAVE Act. And for the small fraction of individuals who have changed their name or their address, they can still register to vote, of course. They just have to go through their state processes to update that documentation. And this is something that the American people, married women, and minorities, and people all across this country who Democrats are insultingly saying cannot do this, they're already doing it every day, going to the Social Security office, going to the DMV, and I think it's frankly insulting that the Democrats are saying that there are certain groups of people in this country who aren't smart enough to update their documentation to allow them to vote. Again, this is a huge myth, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address it.
Of course, and then just one more question about DHS. The funding issue has been 3+ weeks now. I was at the airport this morning in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was early in the morning, and one of the TSA agents, I saw her, she was kind of tearing up, she was crying, and I asked her, I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, I can't make my phone payment, I can barely make my car payment that's coming up. I think a lot in the Beltway, there's so much noise between Democrats, Republicans. It's the Democrats' fault, it's the Republicans' fault. But what is the White House's message to the American people that are struggling because they're not getting that paycheck? It's take away the politics. What do you have to say to those people?
President Trump wants the Department of Homeland Security. He wants TSA, he wants FEMA, he wants the brave men and women of our United States Coast Guard to receive their paychecks, and he wants this department to be fully funded and fully reopened. And so to any American out there who is struggling without a paycheck, we know there's more than 100,000 of you across the country. To any American out there who is showing up to an airport and facing incredibly long wait times and lines, call your Democrat member of Congress and tell them to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That's what President Trump wants to do, and it's completely ridiculous that the American people are suffering as a result of these partisan games that are being played by Democrats on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Steve.
You said the operation was going faster than anticipated. What is your current timeline for how long the war will last?
So look, as you know, Steve, the president and the U.S. military's initial timeline was about 4 to 6 weeks to achieve the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury. Again, to destroy their missiles and their ability to make them, destroy their Navy, permanently deny them nuclear weapons forever, and to, of course, weaken their evil terrorist proxies in the region. We know that the U.S. military and our brave warfighters are quickly and expeditiously executing these objectives well ahead of schedule, but ultimately the operations will end when the commander-in-chief determines the military objectives have been met, fully realized, and that Iran is in a position of complete and unconditional surrender, whether they say it or not.
Does the president still want Iran's unconditional surrender?
Well, when President Trump says that Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, he's not claiming the Iranian regime is going to come out and say that themselves. What the president means is that Iran's threats will no longer be backed by a ballistic missile arsenal that protects them from building a nuclear bomb in their country. I could make an empty threat, but if I have no actions to back it up, then it's an empty threat. And so President Trump will determine when Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, when they no longer pose a credible and direct threat to the United States of America and our allies. Adriana.
Can you explain why the Energy Secretary posted and then appeared to have deleted a post on X saying that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, I was made aware of this post. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Energy Secretary about it directly. However, I know the post was taken down pretty quickly, and I can confirm that the U.S. Navy has not escorted a tanker or a vessel at this time, though, of course, that's an option the president has said he will absolutely utilize if and when necessary at the appropriate time.
And if this was something that was posted erroneously, could it be because of a staffer?
And we are watching now live the ongoing White House press briefing. That is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt at the podium. You heard right alongside of us her opening remarks and heard her response as well to a number of questions from journalists in the White House press briefing room. We're going to continue to monitor this press briefing as it continues, but we do want to turn now to a topic a little closer to home that also has nationwide reach. We are joined right now by Chuck Bell with Consumer Reports with a look at a rising and AI-powered scam threat. Chuck, can you hear us okay?
Yes, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Chuck. Thanks for your time here. Let's just start with this. Consumer Reports, you all monitor these kinds of things. Bring us up to speed on what kind of threat and what kind of maybe rocket fuel AI is giving to scammers who are trying to take people's money.
Well, the amount of scams in the United States has roughly doubled since 2018. We have about 2.6 million complaints of scams coming into the Federal Trade Commission this year, resulting in an estimated $10 billion in losses. So this is a huge problem. Most of us probably know someone in our social circle who's been scammed. And so you really have to be on your guard, especially with all this new technology that's out there.
And the fact that AI is out there, it is easily accessible by just about anybody with an internet connection, and increasingly the technology is getting better and better and better. Are those all factors that are making the job, if you want to call it that, of a scammer easier and allowing them to be more widespread, to proliferate their attempted scams?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it allows them to be very efficient at scale. They only need a small number of people to respond to them to make an enormous amount of money. And they are using micro-targeting, taking information that's been lost in data breaches and personalizing and customizing that information to individual consumers. So they know your address, they may know the number of people in your household, your birthday, and other really personal details about you. And that allows them to get under your radar. If they're impersonating a bank or a government agency like the IRS or a delivery service, they can send you a spoofed phone call. You may think that phone call is coming from your bank, but it's actually coming from a scammer operating from overseas. So it's really important for consumers not to respond quickly to a communication that's dubious. And so I would say a lot of cell phone calls are dubious, but also text messages and messages on messaging app like Facebook Messenger and Telegram.
Chuck, let's drill down on that a little bit. You touched on a lot of different topics there in terms of what some of these scams can look like. Are there particular formats that, in your experience, are the most common styles of these scams? I'm thinking potentially people, as you referenced, calling pretending to be a government agency, calling to pretend to be a long-lost loved one. That used to be popular in the email era. What are the most popular and common formats now?
Yeah, I mean, to have a successful scam, it's important to have a convincing story. So a lot of them revolve around protecting your money. And so it could be your bank or somebody representing that they represent your bank or credit card company, calling you up to say they want to protect your money. It's under threat, but we need to get your password or your secret code so we can verify that your account is okay. Never respond to a call like that. Hang up and call the bank yourself. So that type of imposter scam is increasingly common. We also see scams revolving around applying for a job. So sometimes people apply for a job, it appears they've been accepted, and then the employment agency asks them to do unusual things like wire some money through Zelle or send us some money so we can buy a computer for you. So you never want to send money to someone that you have no ability to trust or that you haven't met in person. So anytime somebody contacts you out of the blue and tells you to act immediately, you want to be in control. You want to be the one who's controlling the communication with the bank or with your job. So hang up and call the number that you have for the bank. Don't just respond to someone who claims to work for the bank.
You get at something we hear from a lot of folks who deal, unfortunately, with the aftermath of scammers. And that's sometimes the best advice is just take a breath. Don't act immediately. I know these scammers often try to ratchet up the pressure and the tension and the urgency in their requests. Before we let you go here, last question. You've touched on a lot of these topics, but let's put it all in one place. The top 3 or 4 tips you would recommend to anybody who is watching to help guard themselves and not fall victim to these scams that, as you have pointed out, are increasingly common.
If you can, try to share less information about yourself when you're operating online. Get an extension to your browser so that your data is not being collected. Limit information sharing on platforms like Facebook. Be suspicious of any emergency situations that crop up. And have a no share policy for your passwords and sensitive financial information. And finally, get an outside perspective. So talk to one of your kids or a neighbor or a friend about what someone told you to do, but don't take action immediately when you think you have an emergency like this. 9 times out of 10, it turns out it's an imposter trying to separate you from your money.
Chuck Bell with Consumer Reports. Thank you for your reporting and your perspective and good advice here. Chuck, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks so much.
We're going to take you now back to Washington, D.C. and inside of the White House. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt still at the podium taking questions in the White House press briefing room. Let's listen back in.
Allow that to happen. He was not going to sit back and allow that to happen, and everyone in this room should be grateful for it. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions for you. One has to do with a follow-up to your statement that you made at the beginning of the briefing regarding the Save America Act.
Sure.
Yesterday, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune spoke on the effort to potentially have a filibuster broken, the rules for the filibuster broken. He said the votes aren't there, one, to nuke the filibuster, and the votes aren't there for a talking filibuster. He says that's the reality. What's your reaction to what Senator Thune said?
Look, I think President Trump, the urgency behind his need to pass the Save America Act and his desire to get this country-saving legislation passed has been made quite clear. He wants all options on the table, and he wants the Senate to move as quickly as possible through whatever means necessary.
And then secondly, just regarding the president's trip tomorrow, looking ahead, why Ohio and why Northern Kentucky?
Well, why not? These are 2 great states with great Americans.
Just wanted to know why they were chosen.
Great states with great Americans. The president will be joined by lawmakers from both states who he greatly admires and respects and supports. And he'll be meeting with business owners in both of these places and talking about the economy, which is, of course, the utmost importance to him.
Caroline.
Thank you. Last week, the Energy Secretary issued a waiver for India to get oil, Russian oils, during this energy crisis.
Yes.
Have you spoken to the President about it? What's the idea behind this?
Have I spoken to the president about it?
Yeah.
Yes, I have spoken to the president about it. And the president and the Secretary of Treasury and the whole national security team came to this decision because our allies in India, as you know, Lalit, have been good actors and have previously stopped buying sanctioned Russian oil. So as we work to appease this temporary gap of oil supply around the world because of the Iranians, we have temporarily permitted them to accept that Russian oil. And this Russian oil was already at sea. It was already out on the water. So this short-term measure, we don't believe it will provide significant financial benefit to the Russian government at this time.
I have one more question
Sure.
about Pakistan. You know, Pakistan is a neighbor of Iran, and Pakistan is also an ally of U.S. President has been praising a lot about the field marshal. Is Pakistan providing any kind of support in this war against Iran?
That I will have to check on with the Pentagon and get back to you. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline.
The president said yesterday that President Putin told him he wanted to be helpful in the Middle East. The Kremlin put out a statement where Putin said, quote, "I would like to reaffirm our unwavering support for Tehran and our solidarity with Iranian friends." How does the president think that Russia could be helpful, if not helping Iran? And did the president push Putin on Russia sharing intelligence with Iran in this war?
The president and his special envoy Witkoff have both said that, of course, they've sent a message to Russia that if that was taking place, it's not something they would be happy with, and they hope that it is not taking place. As for further details about the discussions between these two leaders, I'll leave it to the president to divulge any more of that conversation, but he did confirm it yesterday and provided you with a little bit of the background in his view and his perspective, as he always does. Luke.
Regarding the missile strike on the Iranian school, how long does the administration expect that investigation to take, and will the White House or the Department of Defense release a full report of its findings once the investigation is complete?
The Department of War will do that. The investigation continues, and as the president said yesterday at his press conference, he will accept the conclusion of that investigation, whatever it may be. We'll go to the back row for some love. Sure, in the back with the glasses. Go ahead.
Regarding the shield of the Americas.
Carolyn, and then you can go, but go first.
Okay, thank you.
Is there an update regarding?
You have rough real estate back there, so I'm trying to give you some love.
Is there an update regarding Cuba, and also is an economic deal imminent?
Sure. I don't have any updates on Cuba for you today. Obviously, this is something the administration is actively dealing with. The president's made it quite clear it's his belief, based on fact, that the Cuban regime is bound to fall. The country is obviously in a very weak place, economically speaking. The people are crying out for help, and the president believes and knows that the Cuban regime wants a deal. So as you know, Secretary of State Rubio has been engaged in those conversations as directed by the president. I don't have any updates for you today, though.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding the Shield of the Americas, the initiative by President Trump this weekend.
And we have once again been listening in to the White House Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt, taking questions from the White House Press Corps in this briefing delivered on the 11th day of armed conflict between the United States military, the Israeli military, working in tandem against Iran. 11 days of airstrikes carried out. From the podium just moments ago, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt delivering an update on the number of U.S. military service members who have been injured in this operation. The press secretary saying about 140 United States service members have been injured so far in this conflict, a conflict that has also, according to the Iranian Red Crescent, claimed the lives of more than 1,000 people inside of Iran. And according to United States military authorities, including CENTCOM, claimed the lives of 7 U.S. service members. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest on this conflict that is now into its 11th day.
The 7th American service member killed in action in the war with Iran is now home. Vice President J.D. Vance overnight saluting Army Sergeant Benjamin Pennington, who died Sunday from wounds suffered in an Iranian strike on an airbase in Saudi Arabia on March 1st. 9 days later, President Trump saying the war may be winding down.
It's going to be ended soon.
Even as he warned of larger strikes if Iran follows through on its escalating threats to cut off oil exports through the critical Strait of Hormuz.
We'll take them out so quickly, they'll never be able to recover, ever.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said today will be the most intense day of strikes, and pressed on whether the administration is sending mixed messages on the war's length, saying this.
This is not endless. It's not protracted. We're not allowing mission creep.
The war has choked off traffic through the strait. That, paired with strikes on oil sites across the region, sending gas prices soaring here at home.
To fill it up, it brought an extra $15, $20 on the tank.
President Trump telling NBC News by phone that people have talked about the U.S. seizing Iranian oil, but saying he didn't want to discuss it now. And amid new video of what weapons experts say is a U.S. Tomahawk missile that likely struck an area near an Iranian elementary school at the start of the war, killing 170 people. President Trump again asserting without evidence that Iran could have fired the missile.
The Tomahawk, which is one of the most powerful weapons around, is used by, is sold and used by other countries.
Experts say in this conflict, only the U.S. has that munition, the president adding it's under investigation. There are growing concerns now that rising oil prices will increase costs for plane tickets and for goods shipped by truck, like food, clothing, furniture. President Trump adamant the oil industry will be more secure in the long term, for now, offering to escort oil tankers and provide risk insurance for companies willing to try. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And we continue to monitor the developments as this armed conflict continues. We want to take you now to New York City, where this is a live look. You're seeing it now. A police response outside of Gracie Mansion, that's the official residence of New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, where authorities tell WNBC, our New York City station, that a suspicious package was found outside of the mansion. This follows, over the weekend, alleged explosive devices found outside of the mansion. Yesterday, charges announced against 2 people accused of putting those improvised explosive devices outside of the mansion. This is a new incident, and the response continues. You see it now on your screen. We'll have much more on this just after the break. You're looking live right now outside of Gracie Mansion, the official residence of the mayor of New York City. Now, that man is Zohran Mamdani, who was recently sworn in as the newest mayor of New York City. New York Police Department has evacuated the area outside of the mansion as they continue to look into what has been described as a suspicious package found outside of the residence. A senior law enforcement source tells WNBC, our New York City station, that it's not immediately clear if the device was a real explosive, a hoax, or something discarded near the scene. You see, again, this is a live look at one vantage point of the police responding to the situation outside of Gracie Mansion. It follows a similar incident from over the weekend when 2 men are accused of allegedly leaving homemade explosive devices outside of Gracie Mansion during a protest. Yesterday, at a press conference announcing that the 2 men now face federal charges, the New York City Police Commissioner said those 2 suspects were inspired by ISIS. That case now beginning to make its way through the federal justice system. We're going to continue to monitor this situation outside of Gracie Mansion today as developments come in. We do want to turn now to a law enforcement conversation closer to home. A little bit earlier today, our very own Dan Kennedy sat down with the chief of the Chamblee Police Department, that's Chief Michael Dieppe, for a conversation right here on the 11Alive Plus streaming center, the kind of conversation that we have all the time here. You know, you're always going to get the in-depth conversations and interviews when you tune into 11Alive Plus. We're going to play now for you Dan's interview with the chief of the Chamblee Police Department.
You know, police departments across the country are turning to technology to try to fight crime faster, and the city of Chamblee doing just that too. They just opened a real-time crime center. I want to talk more about that now with the police chief of Chamblee, Mike Dieppe, joining us now in person, in studio. Chief, it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so the city invested some $2 million in this real-time crime center. Why is that a good investment for residents?
It's a really good investment because this crime center helps us solve crimes and bring closure to victims of crimes in a more expeditious manner, and it acts as a force multiplier for our officers on the streets.
What do you mean force multiplier?
Force multiplier. So technology kind of lets us do things where a officer doing manual work would take maybe hours to go out and look for cameras and knock on doors to see if we could find cameras, where we have the chance to put a few cameras out in places where there are thoroughfares through the city that may allow us to capture vehicles and or subjects who are committing crimes. Also allows for a depository for if people want to share videos with us, they can be sent to us via email and analyzed in our crime center. And again, with the idea of helping us identify criminals and then going out and making arrests to bring closures to our victims.
In other words, people who live in Chamblee can send you their Ring doorbell video to try to help out?
That Ring doorbell cameras, their closed circuit TV cameras, businesses that have cameras set up in their shops, schools, anything like that, where there's a camera available, if they wanted to share, could share with us, and then we would use that to help us close a crime and then provide evidence to our district attorney's office to help prosecute those crimes.
Look, I know it's been widely reported, nationwide police department's been struggling with staffing really since COVID. How are you guys doing with staffing, and is this also an instance where the cameras can kind of help out?
We do, we have our peaks and valleys. We have about 4 vacancies for sworn officers right now, which is not a bad thing, but we'd like to be fully staffed. And when we don't have full staffing, the cameras provide us a resource, again, because they're an extra set of eyes out there. And a lot of things happen when no one's around, but the cameras may pick up something. We can go back and view camera footage because we keep the footage for 30 days.
30 days.
And
okay.
It's our video, so it's the property of Chamblee Police Department, and it'll allow us to go back and try to identify a perpetrator of a crime. It even helps with quality of life issues. If we're looking for somebody who had a medical emergency, or if there's somebody graffitiing in an area, that there's a camera that picks it up. We can see that right away.
How many people do you have working in this center?
Right now, there's only 2 people in there. It's not full-time. It's staffed during the day.
Okay.
And it's we're in our infancy because we just opened last week. But we do hope to have 2 or 3 people in there, at least daytime into the afternoon hours, and in the beginning 4 or 5 days out of the week before we progress to hopefully 7 days a week, at least during peak times.
Are these going to be sworn officers, or is this a civilian job?
We're going to have a mix in there. We're having our sworn because they are able to get on the radio and transmit stuff via the radio, but we're going to bring in, we have currently one on staff, what we call an intelligence analyst. That's a non-sworn position, and that person is an expert in the computer programs that we use to identify criminals, do our social media searches, help us look for addresses, license plates, vehicles that belong to perpetrators, and then help us identify where they are so we can send our sworn people out to make the arrest.
I love geeking out over the granularity of this stuff with you, but I think people watching right now may want to know, okay, what does this mean for me? I mean, can you give us a real example of how the Real-Time Crime Center has maybe helped solve a crime, or how you hope it will?
Yes, there's a few examples, but one that comes to mind right away is we had a homicide in our city in 2024 at a Quick Trip, and right after the homicide happened, a person gave a vehicle description. We were quickly able to find the vehicle left in an area where it passed a license plate reader, which would feed into our real-time crime center. That license plate was then entered into a system, so if it went in areas where there were other license plate readers, we could see where the car was going. Following that license plate reader hit, even without the crime center, we're able to track the car down into East Point, quickly identify the subject, and within an hour of the homicide, make an arrest because of the mutual aid from our jurisdictions, but because of the technology, specifically license plate readers in this case, that allowed us to identify the vehicle, where it went, and where the offender fled to.
Big arrest, getting a violent criminal off the streets. How do you balance big moments like that with the privacy concerns that some citizens are weighing, saying they're worried about living in a surveillance state?
That's a really good question, and the answer is this, and it's a hard answer for some to feel, but I really believe that there's feelings involved in the few that do not like this because they perceive it to be a surveillance. The reality is that the rights of people who are the victims of crime deserve to have those crimes solved expeditiously. And this is a crime-solving tool. It's not a surveillance tool. We ran our analytics, and we determined that 17 million cars pass by license plate readers in the city of Chamblee every month. It is impossible for us to try to conduct surveillance. However, if you specifically are the victim of a crime and you say that there's a red Toyota pickup truck, we can go back and isolate red Toyota pickup trucks, try to identify an offender, and again, bring closure to your crime. And that not only helps in crimes, but think about missing persons. Think about people who lose a loved one. If we can use that technology to generate leads and to help bring closure, it's a win for the community, and it's definitely a win for the victims of crimes.
There has also been nationwide concern over whether ICE or DHS can access some of the data that is captured by these license plate readers. Flock, which you guys use in Chamblee, they've said they do not sell or share data with ICE. They say it's communities who control whether the federal government can access that data. So does Chamblee share its license plate reader data with any federal government agency?
We do not. However, we would if we were asked. Our license plate reader data, our pan-tilt zoom cameras that are capturing live feeds, are ours. We follow state law, and if a federal partner or another law enforcement agency were to ask us for assistance, we would definitely provide it, as we would with the general public through an open records request. It's not like that we would say no to a citizen and say yes to ICE. We say yes to a citizen. We say yes to a federal partner or a local police agency as well. However, we control the data. And to this point, we've not had any requests where any federal agency has asked us for any of our data.
Okay, thank you for clarifying on that. Would that be a case-by-case basis, or if they come to you and ask for it, you say, absolutely, you've asked, we're giving it?
If a law enforcement partner comes to us with a law enforcement need, the going rule is that we would give it to them with no questions asked.
Let's say a year from now, we're sitting in here together talking about 1 year since the Real-Time Crime Center is open. What does success look like for you? How are you measuring it? Is it clearance rates? Is it a drop in crime? Something else?
For us, a safer community, all in all. So we'd like to see a drop in crime. Chamblee is an incredibly safe community as it is, but there are large-scale events coming to the city. The World Cup will be here in just a couple of months, and it's, again, making the community feel safe in everything that we do. We host a lot of concerts and events throughout the year, and it provides us that opportunity to try to make the environment as safe as we can, using technology to identify threats and possibly neutralize them before they become action that harms our citizens.
All right, you mentioned the World Cup. It's about 90 days away now. Was it important to get this thing up and running by then? And what kind of conversations are going on behind the scenes when it comes to keeping your community safe?
It is. There's going to be a huge law enforcement contingent from around the state that will come to the Atlanta Police Department. We are only a partner agency to the bigger whole, but the meetings have been going on for months where we've been identifying where our needs are, where we can plug in and participate. And our city will also host events or have parties that are specific to the World Cup, and we want to make sure that anybody that goes to a large gathering in our city feels safe. And those cameras, again, help us see areas that we would not be able to see if we didn't have officers there. They're eyes and ears for us, and again, a tool to help us bring safety for our community.
Chief, I also want to ask about keeping your officers safe, and you've just unveiled a new defensive tactics training room also last week. Tell me what that's all about.
So we like to do defensive tactics training when we can. We didn't have a facility specifically designed for it, and this is a room that has mats in it that are a couple inches thick. So if we are taking each other down to the ground and doing different defensive tactics moves, we're able to do it without getting hurt. We unveiled the room, but we also did it with technology because our tasers that are from Axon have virtual reality. We can have basically a matted room that's enclosed. We have TV screens in there and can watch what's going on when we do different tactics. And even more so, we wear body cameras. And if we see things in the body cameras where there's deficiencies in training that we can identify, we'll bring in our entire staff or individual officers, show them on the TV screens where we think there's areas for improvement, let them see firsthand, and then show them techniques that are meant to improve their tactics out there, not only for their safety, but for the safety of the community when we're having to use force or engage in those use of force incidents.
Chief Dieppe from Chamblee Police, really appreciate your time today answering all our questions. Anything else you want to add for folks watching?
Just thank you all for being here. If there's any questions, please feel free to come out and ask us. I think information, when you have it, will give you a better tool to make decisions about crime centers and technology police are using. But all in all, it's meant for the victims. It's meant to solve crimes. And if there are bad actors, it's the chief's job, the department's job, to hold those people accountable, discipline them, and fire them if they are using the cameras for anything other than their intended purpose.
When you say bad actors, you're talking about people who would have access to the system.
I'm talking about police officers or police personnel. If anybody were to do anything that's not intended for it, it's up to the department to hold those people accountable and make sure that they take action to remove those people from the department or from the profession.
Is there a log of who was searching through everything and their reasons why?
Very good question. Yes, there is a complete detailed log. So anytime somebody goes in and does a search, it leaves an audit trail, and you can see what they were searching, why they were searching, who was searching, and when they were searching, how many times they were searching. So if there's anything that's going on where somebody does something and we get a complaint, we could go back and audit every time that person used the cameras for what and what they were looking at.
Chief Dieppe, really appreciate the conversation. Fascinating stuff today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And we're back in just a couple minutes. You're watching 11Alive Plus.
We are following breaking news right now. You see it on your screen, a major slowdown in Douglasville on I-20. Danielle Moss, meteorologist, traffic expert. What are we looking at here? It looks like a substantial slowdown.
It is. It is a substantial slowdown. And this is I-20 westbound that you're looking at. Based off of our information that's just into the newsroom, it is an overturned Greystone power utility truck, Zach, and it is definitely causing some concerns, at least It says 2 lanes blocked according to 511, but that looks like at least 3 lanes blocked. I'm only seeing a few cars trickle through there westbound. It is definitely causing a really big backup. In fact, as I'm looking at the 511 map right now, it is backed up well into Mableton, and there's also another crash at I-20 westbound near Riverside Parkway and Factory Shoals Road. So that has caused backups almost all the way to 285. So, westbound I-20, this is in Douglasville. You're looking at the crash with an overturned utility truck with at least 2 lanes blocked there. And this is going to be a while before they get it cleaned up. Exact point is past Lee Road on I-20 westbound. Eastbound traffic is obviously still impacted. It looks like the shoulder is closed there, but it's definitely still causing some slowdowns. People are obviously going to stop and look and see what's happening. So both eastbound and westbound there are being impacted by this crash.
And obviously hoping that anybody who was involved in this wreck is all right,
Yes.
and also those traffic impacts. And Danielle, this is something we see frequently when there is a substantial wreck in one direction, the other directional lane sees that slowdown as well, and this split screen really tells that story.
Exactly, especially when there's not really a median to kind of separate the two. A lot of times, you never know if there could be, wreckage that's in that shoulder. So that's why there is at least a utility truck that has that shoulder closed off, and people are probably trying to avoid getting in the way, trying to allow respect, but they're also curious into what happened. Why have we been stopped for so long? So it's a lot of moving parts when we talk about traffic. And what happens is you'll see they'll have to close down I-20 westbound eventually to get that truck towed off to the side, to get all of that accident cleared up. We're talking about screws, nails, whatever is going on in that area. They have to get it cleaned up.
And first, it's you got to get it upright too. It's overturned.
Exactly. They're going to have a large tow truck that's going to have to come through. So there's a lot of moving pieces. So it'll probably be at least maybe into the 4 o'clock hour before we see it completely cleared.
We know you're going to stay on top of this. We're going to continue to monitor this as well. We also have a forecast to take a look at, Danielle.
Exactly.
How are we looking?
Right now, honestly, the forecast is looking pretty good, Zach. Today has been one of those days where we started off a little bit cloudy. We had some rain showers, but now we're starting to dry out. Some of us could be seeing some very isolated showers within the next hour or so. We're not looking at any severe weather by any means, but as we take a closer look into our satellite and radar, you can see a few very light I wouldn't call them downpours. They're really spotty showers in northwest Georgia moving through Lafayette. And then as we take a closer look here into Midtown, it's gorgeous out there. What a beautiful afternoon. Temperatures are still climbing. We have a chance to get into the upper 70s, right near 79 degrees, right before we start to see the sunset and those temperatures cooling down. Here's a look at our highs for today. We haven't reached them just yet, but we will be seeing them really increase. Here's what you need to know. What we're tracking right now, a few light showers for this afternoon. What's new? A strong cold front will be coming through on Wednesday and going into your Thursday morning, and then that's going to spark a cold start for your Friday. Here's a look at that severe weather threat for today. Yes, we have a few showers, maybe a rumble of thunder, but not looking at a severe weather threat. There is a level 3 and a level 4 threat moving through portions of Missouri as well as Indiana and Arkansas as well. So that's not good for that area. It's warm. It's very sunny. That is what we call storm ingredients, and could definitely cause some really long track thunderstorms, tornadoes, unfortunately, when you're looking at a level 4 enhanced risk. So something that they will be monitoring. I'm pleased to report that we won't be looking at that for today. In fact, even in the next few days. Here's a look, though, at the rest of your evening. Spotty showers are definitely possible around 6 and 7 o'clock. Maybe a rumble of thunder. Not everyone sees rain. Just keep your rain gear handy with you. But our next big weather maker will be coming through Wednesday. So let's take a look at that. There is a level 1 threat that is pretty much for all of West Georgia and Northwest Georgia as well. Tracking a few light showers that could start Wednesday afternoon. But look at that. Temperatures will be near 80 degrees on Wednesday evening, and then as this cold front approaches, we'll see some rain showers really into northwest Georgia, and then they start to sink into metro Atlanta Thursday morning, right in time for your Thursday morning commute. So Thursday morning, you're going to want to allow extra time. Heavy rain showers are definitely possible. We're not looking at any severe weather, but it's just going to be kind of a wet, nasty mess. And then our temperatures drop. Take a look at Thursday evening, this is your actual temperature, 50 degrees, but it's going to feel much colder than that. In fact, when it starts raining on Thursday morning, you're going to feel the difference already. This is going to be kind of a cold rain. 11 a.m. feeling like 39 degrees here in Metro Atlanta. We start to see a little bit of warmth, but check out your Friday morning at 5 a.m. It's going to feel like the 30s. This is going to be a shock to our system. I'm getting some thumbs downs, some boos.
Producer Gabby's giving the double thumbs down here. Not ready for the chilly start.
No, it's, it's meteorological spring, but it's not actual spring just yet.
It
So
felt like it today.
Yeah.
But not on Friday, it looks like.
Not on Friday. Friday morning is going to be a very cold start, so you want to make sure that you are prepared. Good news as far as rain chances are concerned. This weekend is going to be pretty decent. Friday and Saturday, both looking dry. Sunday will track some showers that definitely could be marching through once again, and that could be lingering into your Monday. But overall, look at that. That's a beautiful weekend for us. Lots of sunshine, lots of nice, wonderful blue skies for us. 7-day forecast, 77 degrees for today, into the low 80s as we head into your Wednesday. But we take a huge dip for your Thursday. Temperatures will be colder. It will be a cold start to your Friday. Yes, it says Friday morning will start at 41 degrees, but it's going to feel more like 35. We'll be back into the 70s as we head into this weekend. So if you are running in the Community Bank Hunger Walk or Run on Sunday, weather looks pretty decent there, which is great news. So not all is lost for this weekend. You just got to get through that cold snap for your Thursday and Friday.
And you know what? If you are doing one of those runs or those walks on the weekends, you want it to not be oppressively hot when it starts out. 55 degrees is a great temp to be out and moving.
Exactly, because that run doesn't even start till like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So if we're talking about highs into the 80s, boy.
That's warm. I want to ask you, Danielle, before I let you go, one last thing. You showed, obviously, we are not in that really serious severe threat.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those areas, and when you did the nationwide map, that was in a level 4 threat, was in a really dense population area, almost flirting with getting close to the Chicago metro.
Yes.
How big of a threat is it for folks, as we have people watching from all over,
Mm-hmm.
they may be watching and thinking, I know people in that really densely populated area.
It's a very big threat, Zach. And when we talk about these storms right now, we're not looking at any active weather right this second, but this is what happens just like yesterday, right? It's nice and sunny outside, and then by the time you get into the overnight hours, those storms march through. It's warmer. We've had a lot of daytime heating because the time has changed now. So those are all factors that go into springtime severe weather. And that's why we see a lot of tornadoes. March is actually Severe Weather Preparedness Month because of that reason, because you have so many opportunities to have a level 3. Very rare to see a level 4 and 5, but when you have that level 4, that means that there could be some long track tornadoes. So if you do know anyone in that area, make sure they charge their phones, make sure they have multiple ways to get notifications, and that they're prepared for some overnight storms.
This is important advice, and we know everybody out there, all of your meteorological colleagues are going to be tracking that very closely. Happily, we are not dealing with that right now.
Yes.
Danielle, thank you as always. We'll see you a little bit later and at 4 o'clock. 11Alive News at 4. We'll see you then. We turn now to this development in a tough story out of Hall County. Jason Hughes, a beloved teacher and educator, was killed after the Hall County Sheriff's Office says a student ran him over following an attempted senior prank. Now a group of students, including the driver and several others, are facing charges. The Hughes family is asking prosecutors to drop those charges. Our Stefanich Haynock has the latest.
Yeah, and really all across the Gainesville community, the family asking for these charges to be dropped. I was in Gainesville on Monday, and I spoke with some members of the community who say the situation is really heartbreaking for all families involved. The family of Hughes, a beloved teacher and coach at North Hall High School, and also the 5 teens now facing charges. The Hughes family breaking their silence on Monday, releasing a statement saying they don't want to see these teenagers face charges. They say Jason loved these students, and they loved him too. Our family fully supports getting the charges dropped for all involved. This is a terrible tragedy, and our family is determined to prevent a separate tragedy from occurring, ruining the lives of these students. This would be counter to Jason's lifelong dedication of investing in the lives of these children. Our colleagues tell 11Alive Hughes was not only a math teacher, but a leader in the community and a man of faith that mentored students and was loved deeply by everyone. He was 40 years old and leaves behind a wife and 2 sons. And now the 5 students students involved are facing charges, including 18-year-old Jaden Wallace, the only teen charged with vehicular homicide. Now, the head of the North Hall football team, Coach Sean Pender, called Hughes a brother and says his absence has been felt immediately.
The influential and exhilarating speech right there before getting our guys fired up, and he would use the scripture to do it, and it was just an awesome thing to be a part of.
In that statement that was released Monday by the family, they also said that Hughes knew that these students were coming to his house to prank him and that he was actually waiting and excited to catch them in the middle of the prank. I'm Stephanie Chanock, 11Alive News.
And an online fundraiser in memory and support of the Hughes family, raising, you're looking at it live right now, more than $400,000, nearly $500,000 in support of the Hughes family. The fundraiser with this message saying it's raising funds in memory of Jason Hughes to assist his family with immediate expenses and a future college fund for his children. You see the family there at the top of your screen. The message goes on to say that Jason's life was a blessing to so many, and his untimely passing will be indescribably difficult for his wife and 2 young boys for years to come. Please use this opportunity to come alongside them in their time of immediate need and future planning for his children. And many people have. More than 4.7 thousand donations made, nearly $500,000 as of 3:15 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon, donated to the Hughes family. This is a story we're going to continue to cover as it develops and as its impact in the Hall County community continues to be felt. The loss of beloved teacher and educator Jason Hughes. We're going to turn now to this follow-up and developments to a story we have been covering for some time, an encampment by Grady Memorial Hospital. In the Grady Memorial Hospital area, a homeless encampment, it has been removed. The sidewalk used to be substantially covered with trash and sleeping arrangements, tents. You see them on your screen there. Chase Howell has been covering this story. He reports that many people he saw when he was first on the scene about a week or so ago, they couldn't walk on the sidewalk. They were forced to walk in the road because the sidewalks had been overtaken by these encampments under a bridge near Grady Memorial Hospital. Well, crews this week with the city of Atlanta cleared the area out over the weekend. And we today have updates on some of the folks and perspective from some of the folks who were moved out. Chase Howell spoke with 2 people about the impact of being asked and really being moved from under that bridge. We're going to play you interviews with both of them. The first man you will hear with is Brandon Gardner.
Social workers started to show up around 5. Providing donuts and not housing or anything. I was under the understanding that they were going to help us with being able to go somewhere because we didn't have anywhere to go. We haven't had anywhere to go for 2 years. It's not like we could just miraculously come up with a place, and since then, our stuff's been thrown away from different places, and I understand it is an eyesore. It's not the community's fault, but if we all work together, I feel like that we could come up with a resolution for this.
Where have you been having to stay now?
Everywhere, all over, like street sidewalks, like in bushes, like anywhere we can just pick to stay at, anywhere just stay. And when we do go in bushes or sidewalk, the APD come mess with us over there. So basically, it's hard out here.
Again, that first man you heard from was Brandon Gardner. The second, Quinvarius Sims. Both say they lived in that encampment for about 2 years. That encampment, again, was cleared out over the weekend. 11Alive and Chase Howell continue to ask the city of Atlanta about what resources were provided or not to the people who had called that encampment their home and what resources were provided to them as they were asked to leave. If and when we receive a response from the city of Atlanta, we, of course, will bring it to you. We'll be right back. If you live in Metro Atlanta, you are likely aware of this, a controversy surrounding a proposed promotional night for the Atlanta Hawks in collaboration with Magic City, an Atlanta institution that if you live here, you certainly know about it. That promotional night has now been canceled. Our Reggie Chapman breaks down the whole situation and how we got here.
Sitting here recording a different video at 5:20. No Magic City night on Monday at State Farm Arena. Adam Silver said, when we became aware of the Atlanta Hawks scheduled promotion, we reached out to the Hawks leadership to better understand their plans and rationale. While we appreciate the team's perspective and the desire to move forward, we have heard significant concerns from a broad array of league stakeholders, including fans, partners, and employees. I believe canceling this promotion is the right decision for the broader NBA community. My instant reaction, that stinks. The jackets and sweatshirts were really, really cool. I think it was going to be an awesome experience for everybody involved. I really wanted to get some wings. And we saw some backlash from different people, including former Hawk Al Horford. NBA has seemed to, I guess, side with him and other people that were against the night. So obviously very, very disappointing. The question is, if you ordered a sweatshirt, will you not get one? All the sweatshirts they've already had printed. Where are they going to go? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys like the decision by the NBA to cancel the game? Or do you think it should have still happened?
Okay, so a little more context here, and we're going to bring in Jeff Shaw as well. Jeff Shaw, the CEO of the Freedom Collective. Thank you for making the time. We should say at the outset, I think a lot of people know this, Magic City is a strip club. You were opposed to this initial plan to have the promotional night and outspoken against it. Why?
Yeah, basically what is an institution culturally to some is a symbol of exploitation and oppression and coercion for others. And what my experience over the past 15 years has been is women coming out of situations of trafficking who have storylines that intersected with the strip club, whether they had a fake ID made for them and they were put to work underage, whether they were being sent to work at the club by a pimp and having all their money taken at the end of the shift, or even in the cases recently, there were two, one in Texas, one in Wisconsin, where the clubs themselves were running sex trafficking operations. So to take something like a strip club and elevate it and normalize it in an institution like the Atlanta Hawks is, to me, counter to what this city is about and should be proud of.
And we should right off the top here, Magic City has responded to this decision to cancel the promotional night. I want to read part of this response. The club said, quote, "For more than 40 years, Magic City has been proud to serve as a cornerstone of Atlanta's hospitality, food, music, and nightlife culture. We remain committed to providing a safe, professional, and empowering environment for our performers, staff, and guests. We firmly denounce abuse, exploitation, or mistreatment in any form and stand for the dignity and safety of everyone in our industry." That's Magic City's perspective on this. Your group has a different look at it.
Yeah, and I want to say I appreciate genuinely the statement. And I think one thing that in our line of work we have to be careful about is that we don't overgeneralize and lump people and experiences together. But I think when you talk about, I saw one of the interviews that TMZ did with a dancer, and she's sitting next to her boss being asked if she feels like her work environment is exploitive or empowering. It's like, well, what do you think she's going to say? Why do you think they picked her to be the representation? What do you think she's going to say in front of her boss? And it may have
specifically at Magic City?
Yes. So they interviewed her with the owner of Magic City about, hey, some people are saying this is a degrading experience for women overall, that it objectifies women. And she said, and I think very sincerely, that hasn't been my experience. And I'm not here to say that she's right or wrong, but I think we can look at objective conditions of an industry and versus a subjective experience of an individual that says, well, I haven't felt exploitive. That doesn't mean the conditions of the workplace or the industry are not foundationally exploitive.
Let's tease this out a little bit more, because as you well know, this was a topic that really, A, got a lot of attention in Atlanta, and B, drew very different responses. One of the things I've heard from people who were disappointed to see this promotional night canceled, they've said, in response to arguments a little bit like the ones that you're making, that the NBA and the Atlanta Hawks, that's not the kind of venue that should be holding up an establishment and promoting an establishment like Magic City. Some critics of the decision to cancel have said, well, Professional sports have a long history of, if you watch TV broadcast, commercials for alcohol, commercials for other things that you've got to get an ID and be a certain age to access. What's so different about promoting Magic City?
Yeah, well, I thought about this, differentiating between something like the decision to consume alcohol or the decision to smoke cigarettes that may be harmful to me, but I'm going to purchase those things and do it. What we're talking about here, the consumer base, are the customers who go into the club, and then the women are, can we acknowledge what strip clubs are? I think that's one, we're talking a lot about lemon pepper wings and hip hop music. And the owner even said, "Don't worry, we're not going to have breasts out in the State Farm Arena, and we're not going to have any of the dancers there." What does that tell you about the promotion of the workplace when you're saying we won't have any of the people who work there actually present? Would we have a healthcare celebration night and say, "Don't worry, we won't have any actual nurses and doctors there"? What is the disconnect? Well, it's the fact that what is at the center of the business model is people going to see women take their clothes off in front of them, and then to have an environment where you throw your money at the person or on the floor. We don't do that when we pay anybody else in any other workplace. You jeer at them, you leer at them, you catcall them, some people touch them, and that sometimes that behavior gets stopped and sometimes it doesn't. It is a workplace environment that is not celebrated anywhere else. And the broad culture, in my opinion, because most people who might be outraged about the promotion maybe don't frequent a strip club, they're just buying the message being sold by the industry. It's innocent, it's wings, it's music. Well, then be that. Why don't you be a music venue that brings in great live music and sells wings? Why do you have to have women taking off their clothes in the center of that? And our position at the Freedom Collective is that by its very nature, when you reduce someone down to a sexual object devoid of any of their other values, personality, traits, skills, that is by nature exploitive.
What do you say? Some folks have argued, and you've touched on this a little bit in this conversation, but I want to put it to you plainly. Some people say a place like Magic City is intertwined with a lot of Atlanta history and Atlanta culture, particularly the music industry, the hip-hop industry, and they have made the argument that a night at the Hawks and State Farm Arena promoting Magic City is a promotion of Atlanta culture more broadly, not specifically strippers so narrowly focused.
Yeah, I agree. I think hip hop is central to Atlanta culture. I think there's a lot of great food, barbecue. There's a lot of things that are cultural pillars. We also have a proud culture of fighting for human dignity and civil rights and a history of Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis. And to me, those stand for the values that we want to uphold and celebrate. And look, I want to refer to the interview of the Magic City club owner and the dancer. She was incredibly well-spoken, very sincere, kind, just seemed like an incredible person. But if you listen to her interview closely, at the end, she says, a promotion like this by the NBA might bring some more of the resources that we need to get out. It's wild when you look at what she actually said. I haven't felt exploited, but this could really help a lot of us and help us get the financial means to get out and move on. What that says to me, in my experience, is it is primarily drawing women who have vulnerability. It might be financial, and it might truly be a means for them to move forward. But on the flip side, the statistics, there was a Johns Hopkins University study, 73% of women newly in the sex adult entertainment industry, in strip clubs specifically, reported a substance use disorder. 75%. So you might go in looking for empowerment and some financial means to set yourself up better for life, but often what's waiting for you are the things you don't see coming. The substance use, 44% reported illegal drug use. So 50 to 75% saying they experience workplace violence. This is not an industry and an environment that inherently empowers women.
I want to end here. This is the statement from the Atlanta Hawks after the decision was made that by the NBA that this promotional night is not going to go forward. The Hawks said in response, quote, "While we are very disappointed in the NBA's decision to cancel our Magic City night promotion, We fully respect their decision. As a franchise, we remain committed to celebrating the best of Atlanta with authenticity in ways that continue to unite and bring us all together. What's your response to that statement? And what's your message to the Hawks?
So to the Hawks, I would say we want to take you up on that. If you want to elevate the best our city has to offer, then let's talk about the real work that's being done to empower women, to empower human dignity, to help survivors that are putting their lives back together. And my hope is that this conversation, even the cancellation of Magic City Night, wouldn't end the conversation, but that they would want to come to the table and say, hey, we've heard things we didn't expect to hear. Can we sit down and talk more about that?
Jeff Shaw, CEO of the Freedom Collective, thank you for your time
Thanks, Zach.
and your perspective on this topic that has gotten a lot of attention in Atlanta. We'll be right back after this. Well, a lot of excitement brewing for the Atlanta Falcons as hopes for the upcoming season are increasing. Maybe some questions as well. Maria Martin joining us now. Free agency is top of mind.
Crazy.
The Falcons are looking to bring in some help.
Yeah, and a lot of it. I mean, the Falcons have made a lot of moves. So let's break down what free agency actually looks like.
Yeah,
for
give us the
people.
timeline. Bring us up to speed.
You see Tua Tagovailoa, and you say, okay, why is he not trotting through the doors in Atlanta right now? That can't happen, actually, until Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So the NFL legal tampering window, basically in layman's terms, it just means that agents and teams and players can all start talking about if you are a free agent, Where can I go? Do I stay here? It depends. We can get into unrestricted free agency and all that, but I'll bore everyone to tears. So all you need to know is they can start talking on Monday. So that has already happened. They can agree to these things in principle. Now, the deals cannot officially go through until Wednesday at 4 p.m. So we're looking at tomorrow afternoon. Tua Tagovailoa could officially sign his contract here in Atlanta. So the Falcons have been really hard at work. This roster is going to look very, very different than it has in years past. And I think that that's a good thing. You know, Kevin Stefanski and Ian Cunningham have come in here, looked at the roster, evaluated, and said, we're going to do things a lot differently. There are a lot of free agents for the Falcons that they are not holding on to, that they're getting rid of, and then a lot that they're bringing in. And I think that they're doing the right thing by bringing in a lot of veteran help. There's a lot of controversy on some of the players that they brought in so far, but I think it's been great to see all the moves that they've made so far.
Let's talk about Tua here, because a household name for many folks. He's a quarterback, folks who might not know. Some of our viewers are locked-in sports fans. Others, I think, probably don't know as much. The Falcons, it's your expectation that they will sign Tua Tagovailoa formally tomorrow. Walk us through what this quarterback room is going to look like at this point.
Totally different.
It's had a lot of changes, right?
A lot of change. There's been change every year since Matt Ryan was the quarterback here, who's now the president of football.
And how long ago was that for people who maybe don't remember?
This has been a long time now. 6 seasons, I think,
Many
the last
years.
time. Yeah. So, you know, for Tua coming here, Tua Tagovailoa, if you don't know who he is, he played at the University of Alabama, perhaps had the best throw of his entire career inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the 2019 National Championship game. And that kind of resurrected the conversation about Tua in the NFL. And I think it's very fascinating that that throw happened here in this city. And now, you know, however many years later, he's going to be in a Falcons uniform. And for the Falcons fans that are really concerned about this signing, I understand it from the standpoint of Tua's hurt a lot. We know that he's had a very healthy, for lack of a better term, history of concussions. And that is a big concern for a lot of people. And then you're sitting around looking at Michael Penix Jr., who also is not the healthiest quarterback. He's still working his way back from an ACL injury. Those are your two quarterbacks, two lefty quarterbacks sitting in that room come Wednesday, because Kirk Cousins will be released come 4 o'clock on Wednesday. And then Easton Stick, who is currently navigating free agency, he will not be an Atlanta Falcon anymore. So you have two quarterbacks. You know, there's plenty of options that the Falcons could go out and get in terms of depth. Some teams ride with two, a lot don't. It'll be interesting to see if they carry 3 or 2 throughout the season. But I think when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa, here's the deal. The Dolphins are on the hook for a lot of money for Tua, okay? They owe him $54 million. That is what they will pay him next year. The Atlanta Falcons, let me be very clear, are not on the hook for that financially. So he's going to be making a lot of money. That's the Miami Dolphins' fault. All the Atlanta Falcons have to pay him is the NFL Veteran League minimum, which is $1.3 million. And all they got to do is pay him that for 1 year. To me, that's not a bad deal, especially when you have a quarterback who's working his way back from injury, like we mentioned, Michael Penix Jr., and there's something to a lefty-on-lefty quarterback. What I mean by that is, let's say Tua Tagovailoa is in there, Michael Penix Jr. is not healthy. All you got to do is switch to another quarterback with the same hand. A lot of people may say, oh, it's not really a big deal. It kind of is. And so I think that was probably very intriguing for this front office. I also just think, you know, Tua's not a bad quarterback. It's the injury history that I think frustrates a lot of people, and his setup in Miami was ridiculous for a long time. He didn't have a good offensive line. He has a much improved offensive line when he comes here, and I think that it's a refreshing of his brand for him as a quarterback. He was a 2023 Pro Bowler. He led the league in passes in 2023. That ultimately became his Pro Bowl year. And so this is a very interesting situation. You bring in a veteran, immediate competition at the quarterback position. It's always a good thing.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Is there a clear starter in this quarterback room now?
It's a loaded question simply because this front office has no allegiance to Michael Penix Jr. And they're looking at him in a cold tub and saying, well, what can you give me in a couple months? None of us know the answer to that. And if you ask Michael Penix Jr., he's going to tell you that, hey, I'll be ready. I'm going to be ready. And he can't say anything other than that. And listen, I hope that Michael Penix Jr. is ready. I hope he jumps up out of the cold tub. I hope he goes through his rehab process and just absolutely kills it. I really do. But there is a very big level of unknown. And this is the position in the NFL, in fact, in all of sports, that unknown is not a place you want to be. You want some certainty in the quarterback position in the NFL. And what you get in Tua is a guy that actually does know how to play, who has proven that he can play. I'm not saying Michael can't. But Tua has a proven record now. He was drafted in 2020. He has years under his belt in the NFL. And so you bring a guy in who is very excited about a change of scenery. There was some tumultuous things that happened in Miami with Tua towards the back end. And so this is a refreshing thing for him. And then you have Michael Penix Jr. motivated by the fact that, wait a second, I have a veteran who is not named Kirk Cousins, who has life in front of him in the league, right behind me. I got to go. I got to play. So I think it's healthy competition. I think it's great. A surefire starter, I think, is hard just because we don't know Michael Penix Jr.'s status for the beginning of the season. If you were to ask me if he was fully healthy, I'd say Penix was your guy, but having competition doesn't hurt.
Let me ask you this one last question before we let you go. You mentioned the front office has no allegiance to Penix.
Right.
That's because the front office has gone through a great deal of changes. What are you learning? What are we learning about what may be the priorities and the philosophy of this newly restructured front office?
Well, to me, what this Tua deal actually signals is that they are thinking forwardly when it comes to the quarterback position, meaning in 2027, if there's an attractive quarterback that they could draft, because remember, Zach, they don't have a first-round draft pick this year, and that's typically where you're going to draft your quarterback of the future. Yes, I'm very well aware there's been deeper quarterbacks drafted that have become franchise quarterbacks, but typically it's those first rounders that are your guys, and the Falcons don't have an option for that. So with Tua, you get a 1-year bridge gap. You get Michael to push whatever he can do, and assuming he's healthy and he's your guy, then all problems are solved, right? Well, what happens if he's not? And what happens if he's not the quarterback that this new regime wants him to be? Those are all options on the table. And so by bringing in a guy like Tua, it also opens the window of a younger quarterback in the future. So that's the philosophy kind of coming into shape here. But the reunion of a guy like Olamide Zaccheaus, who is a former Falcons wide receiver who's now coming back to Atlanta. And then you also have a reunion with Austin Hooper, who has previously worked with Kevin Stefanski. He's a tight end who everyone loves. Kevin Stefanski, the new Falcons head coach, loves the tight end. It was his first job when he got a job in the NFL as an assistant coach. He was a tight ends coach. The pairing of Kyle Pitts and Austin Hooper looks great. And so you're starting to see a little bit of what it looks like, but I'm telling you, it's going to look so much different, not just in terms of a front office standpoint or a staff standpoint. We know that that looks different, but this roster, the philosophy, the scheme, all of it is going to change. So for Falcons fans freaking out, I get it, because there's been so much change really ever since Matt Ryan left that building as a player, and it's exhausting and you're tired of not making the playoffs. And I understand all those things, but I think a lot of change actually benefits this franchise in so many different ways, considering what you've been doing the last 8 years doesn't work. So blowing it up essentially is a lot of what they're doing, and I think it's going to pay dividends for them in the long run.
A lot of change, more to come, and
Yeah.
it sounds like more to come starting tomorrow officially at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know you're going to be watching that closely. The offseason continues, and it's going to go quickly.
Yes, I know. It never ceases to amaze me how crazy it is, even though we call it the off season.
Well, we know you guys are always on top of it. Maria, as always, we appreciate it.
You bet.
We'll be right back. Monitor this traffic slowdown on I-20 westbound in Douglasville. This is the result of a overturned truck. You see it in the westbound lane here. Earlier today, just about every lane in the westbound direction of I-20 here in Douglasville was closed. Now, if you look in the westbound lane, one lane, the far right lane, is open. Traffic still, though, moving through here very slowly. The eastbound direction also slowed down as well. Likely a lot of rubbernecking going on here as folks look at this wreck. We're going to continue to keep you up to date on the traffic situation there in Douglasville as we head into the heart of the afternoon commute. And, of course, hope everybody involved in that wreck is okay. We're going to continue to watch this and bring you the developments as they unfold. We do want to turn now to this. Our Danielle Nottingham joining us in the 11Alive Plus streaming center with a story about a mother-daughter duo who are golfers, Danielle.
I know, I love them. They started this organization called Ladies Who Golf, and the whole idea behind it is getting women on the golf course to help with networking. Like, as we all know, people talk business on the golf course, and you could be missing out on a lot of opportunity if you don't get out there and try. So they saw that, and they were like, you know what? We're going to get women on the golf course.
I was jealous of this assignment. I got to be honest with you, because I saw some of the video. You're working with one of our photojournalists, and I was kind of peeking, and I thought, man, there they are. They're out in the driving range, having a good time, and I think we have that story ready to go.
Yes, we sure do.
Let's take a look at this.
With a swing and a little practice, more women are stepping onto the green thanks to this mother-daughter duo.
We started out, funny enough, with about 7 ladies per clinic. Eventually that grew to 14, and then about 20 ladies per clinic, 5 clinics a weekend. So we were introducing over 100 women a month to golf.
Kiara Miles was working in fintech and noticed her coworkers bonding on the golf course. She picked up a club, asked her mom LaShonda to join in, and Ladies Who Golf was born.
Good work. It pulled me out the shadows. I started playing. We now have a tournament team. I'm a part of that team. And this has really just been one of my favorite sports so far.
A lady who golfs.
The National Golf Foundation says just over a quarter of golfers are women. To help close the gap, Kiara and LaShonda offer lessons from certified instructors. I even got a chance to putt with the team.
Oh, almost there. We have gotten many testimonies from ladies in which they've now been asked to join, their executives to be out on the course to discuss some things, whether it's related to a promotion with their jobs out on the golf course. Yes. Nice.
But the beginning wasn't easy.
Practice makes perfect, okay? I would say our biggest challenge that we had with creating this organization was golf course access. Once again, it's a male-dominated space. And while we are a mother and daughter duo, we are 2 African-American women that are trying to introduce a sport that wasn't relatively available to us. Nice.
Today, Ladies Who Golf has 9 chapters across the country. In Atlanta, Danielle Nottingham, 11Alive News.
Good job! Yes. That was good.
9 chapters, all across the country now, started right here.
Yeah, and I'm still thinking about that putt I missed.
I wasn't going to bring it up. We were talking about it when we were watching it. You were online. You had the line. You just left it a little short.
I know. No, but yeah, they have grown tremendously, and they started I think it's been about 3 or 5 years right now.
Not even that long of a time range for this kind of growth.
Yeah, not that long at all. And she was actually working in fintech at Cox. And that's when she noticed, she was like, all of my coworkers are getting out on the course and they're bonding and I'm being left out in some sort of way. And so there's 9 chapters across the country. They've got I think 1,500 members now.
Wow.
And she's actually quit her job. She's left that job and she does this full time now. So they just have a lot of great events. They're going to Barbados in a few months for a golf. Yeah.
What a great trip.
Yeah, what a
you
great
gotta
trip.
get that assignment. You got to go the foreign correspondent.
Right. Okay. I like how you're
If our
thinking.
bosses are listening,
I like how you're
you know, prepare. But
how you're
truly, I mean, what a great story. And Danielle, I wonder if in the course of your conversations there, you heard from them about any challenges maybe they faced along the way. It's always hard to bring folks into a new thing, into a new space. And in this case, probably for some folks, you have 1,500 plus members now, a new sport.
Right. And she was saying that when they started out, that was part of the problem. They were going to golf courses, they were going to places, and they were like, we've never done this before. We've never hosted, you know, women of color or these types of clinics, because of course, you know, when they're starting out, you need a little help to get along the way, and so she said it was a challenge, but once they started doing it and other people saw other people doing it, that's when folks joined in. And that day we were at Bobby Jones Golf Course, which was a really nice course that day. And along the way too, you know, they were inspired by Althea Gibson. So we know her as the tennis player, but what people don't also know is she was the first woman of color in the LPGA, and she was the first woman of color to play in a U.S. Open. And she said that inspired them because they also have a tennis component. They're going to ramp that part up soon, but she was the inspiration for this all.
The Miles women, the mother-daughter duo who are making this all happen. I'm sure y'all had a chance to talk about just what it means to broaden the tent, to expand the scope and access golf with tennis now, you're saying, and there's so many of those conversations that happen on the golf course that relate to the business world too.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I was a photojournalist that I worked with was Mike Nicholas, and there was this shot. I said, Mike, put this in here, and these are like the behind the scenes unintentional. But if you see them at the driving range and it's that whole line, I was like, get the line. And you could see she's the only woman there, and it's all men on the driving range. And so you can see how that becomes a disadvantage when you're trying to get into the C-suite and, you know, do all of these things professionally. There are things happening behind the scenes that you don't know about. And it could be playing tennis. Like these days it might be pickleball too, right?
Sure.
But they're the little things that put you ahead in life. And so she's trying to give women a leg up and just like, hey, and besides that, it's like a sisterhood. It's a lot of friends. There's a lot of events, saying like there's trips. So it's more than just professional. It's networking and it's finding a community.
And I'm glad you bring that up too, because networking, I think, in the era of LinkedIn and kind of all your personal brand, right? It takes on a purely professional, business-focused tone and tenor, but there's also just the social element of it. And in an era where we are so, and I'm guilty of this, I'm looking at 4 or 5 different computer screens right now. We're so digital focused. I would imagine having an outlet like that for women to go and enjoy, be outside, play a sport, spend time together, talk business, talk work, talk whatever you want, has got to be something that they really treasure.
Oh, absolutely. And you just mentioned that she had a really nice swing. I mean, these are certified instructors. So these are ladies who golf and they golf well. They're serious. They're serious about their tournament. They when I was out there, they told me how they're like, yeah, I had to leave this group because they weren't playing. They weren't serious.
No, just watching. They have game. And your putt looked good.
Well, thank you very much. I took up not tennis, golf.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe in the next iteration.
The next iteration. I took up golf a few years ago, and it was very funny because a girlfriend of mine, she said, I'm tired of playing with all these older women. There's no one my age out here. Can you please take lessons or something so you can come out here with me? And I think that that's a big thing about golf is just the diversity. It's not just in color, it's in age. And so it's just a lot of fun. People have a good time, like you said, socially. Do you golf?
Not well. My mom's probably watching right now. She's going to tell my dad about this. No. I like to golf. I love to golf. I'm not a good golfer, but I love getting out. It's a chance for me to spend time with my family. Me and my dad go out. It's always a treat. I love it.
Yeah. So does your mom play?
She's the golf cart driver. And Mom, if you're watching, we think you're great at that too.
Hey, that's an important person. I'm like that sometimes too. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to skip this hole. I'll drive the cart. But overall, it's just a really great story about how you can kind of see something in the world that you want to change or that you find out or you learn and you want to pull other people into it and let them know what's going on. And so it's a nice community. It's a big community and it keeps growing. So I think they're doing a really good thing with, connecting women and trying to help people figure out how to get a leg up in life.
Danielle, as always, we love the stories that you bring to us and the perspective. And I knew it was Mike Nicholas who shot that. He did a great job. I hope he watches this too. Photojournalist Mike Nicholas has a style all his own. And maybe we all get out on the golf course sometime soon.
Okay, I like that. Let's
You
do
can,
it.
if we bet, you can take all my money. I'm not very
Oh,
good.
okay. No money on the line. No money on the line.
I play for quarters. Danielle, thank you. We'll see you again next time. On that note, we are getting ready for a whole lot more news coming up, starting at 11Alive News at 4 o'clock. We are tracking a big election day here in Georgia. It is a special election to replace the now former Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who resigned her seat earlier this year after a public rift between her once very close ally, President Donald Trump. That rift became controversial and very public and ultimately ended with the Congresswoman resigning her seat. It was with about a year left in her term today. Voters in Northwest Georgia in the 14th Congressional District head to the polls to select who they want to see fill out the remainder of that term. They've got a lot of options. More than a dozen candidates on the ballot in a race that is expected to go to a runoff. We're going to be monitoring all those results as they are coming in a little bit later today. And our Doug Richards has a look at the state of the race coming up at 4 o'clock. We are also tracking construction in East Atlanta that has businesses frustrated as parking lots are taken up. You can hear from those business owners coming up next. And our very own Caitlin Ross has a deep dive on a story that you will only see here, and it is kids reading to goats. You got to stick around to watch that coming up at 11Alive News at 4 o'clock. We'll see you then.